England have lost the fourth test and therefore the series 3-1. But it was an exciting fourth day with India apparently well set to knock off the runs that they needed. But then they did lose wickets. They lost 3 for 16 before lunch and then another couple of wickets immediately after as well. They were 120 for 5 and still 72 runs away from victory. But a very good partnership of those 72 runs between Gill, who made 52, and Jarrell 39. Let's not forget his 90 in the first innings either. Saw India home and therefore to that 3-1 series win. We'll get some reaction from out in Ranchi. Stefan Shemmels, who's speaking to Ben Stokes, and also to Dinesh Karthik. But before that, I've got Michael Vaughan and Mark Ramprakash with me. Let's start with you, Michael. There were moments there, weren't there? I mean, on a pitch like that, you never really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, hi everyone, hi Ramps. I must admit, I started to get excited when they needed 72 and that fifth wicket fell. Sarfraz Khan was out first ball. Ben Stokes' captaincy was tremendous. Shoaib Bashir, I mean, he's in his second test match and he had it on a string and he got the bounce. He was getting the odd ball to keep a bit low. And then all of a sudden there was a real sensible partnership. It was clever play, calmness from Shubman Gill. And Jarrell, again, in his second game, he looks a real find for India. He played with real quality clarity, not just the clarity of the situation play, but his foot movement was excellent, real good technical side to his game. And within 20 odd runs of that partnership, I thought, well, wait a minute, they're going to stroll home here because you've got two players who know the conditions well. And unless they made real glaring mistakes, England weren't going to win that test match. So you look back to day three, Aggers, it's the same story. The second innings of England's batting on day three, they lost the last 7 wickets for 35. That's where England lost the test match.
Yeah. Mark, on that sort of pitch, though, I mean, chasing, it's only a small target, I know, but you never really know, do you? We said throughout this series, 1 wicket brings 2. You hear them shout bang, bang out in the middle. I mean, it's just that sort of surface where a new batsman is going to struggle.
Absolutely, yes. When the pitch deteriorates, there's uneven bounce, there's more and more turn, but it's not necessarily consistent turn. The game speeds up. And often in the third innings, fourth innings, things can happen very quickly. And England would have walked onto the pitch this morning still thinking very much that they have a real opportunity here. Of course, their end of the bargain is to bowl accurately and take their chances. And, they were entrusting, once again, the two spinners in Hartley and Bashir to do the bulk of the work. Bashir has completely vindicated his selection on this tour, operating over the wicket, round the wicket, bowled very skillfully. I think their mindset was one that they can still go on and really cause India problems. And an Indian batting lineup that is, very much in transition. Michael mentioned these two players at the end, Gill and Jarrell, being very inexperienced, very, very skillful, play all formats, very successful in T20 cricket. But actually here they really showed their mettle, their ability to get the ones and twos, not necessarily to go after the boundaries as we see modern players do. And they picked off the gaps in the field in a very mature way, very precise way. We didn't see a lot of sweeps, reverse sweeps. It was all quite conventional and it did the job very well.
Just before we hear from Ben Stokes, I'm just looking at the bowling figures, Michael. Jimmy Anderson, just 3 overs. I wasn't on the podcast yesterday, but I couldn't believe that he didn't open the bowling in India's second innings, just to create pressure more than anything else. Do you think he should have bowled more than that?
Well, the fact that, he's got the wool over Rohit Sharma's eyes, I suggest that Jimmy Anderson, you could argue England's greatest seam bowler, would have been a good option to bowl at Rohit Sharma with that new ball last night. What happened last night, actually, when you think of the 40 runs that came inside 8 overs, that was a big sway in that chase because they knocked off a decent chunk quite quickly. The spinners didn't get it right last night, and that can happen when you're chasing a wicket or two late on in a day. You're desperate to finish the day's play that's not been a good one for you with a couple of wickets. So they probably were just trying a little bit too hard. But yeah, I mean, Jimmy did bowl 3 overs. He went for 12 and it looked quite innocuous when he came on. But to have Jimmy Anderson, who's had Rohit Sharma in the first innings, had him many times in the past, not bowling a few balls to Rohit, he ends up getting a good 50, the captain of India. Then was stumped today with a shot that I don't see him play that often. Usually when Rohit's stumped, he's giving it the full Monty. Being dragged out of his crease defending, caught behind and stumped in the same ball doesn't happen that often. But you can point the finger at a few tactical manoeuvres on both sides in terms of the captaincy. But realistically, it was yesterday's batting. England had a great chance. They had a great chance in the morning. They dropped a chance at mid-wicket, Ollie Robinson. You're looking at the whole series in general and why England have lost this series. They've not managed to grab the key moments in the last 3 test matches. They had a great chance last week on the third day, arriving on day 3. There was no Ashwin. They screwed up that first session on day 3 then. And yesterday they had the chance to take that opportunity at mid-wicket. Ollie Robinson dropped it. They could have had a lead of 100. They ended up with a lead of 46, which was still a decent lead on this kind of wicket. And then when you get the bat in hand and you're 120 for 3, you know, and you're plenty in front already, you only need another 100 runs. You know, and it's these kind of moments and situations that we're looking at this team now, and they've been going now for 2 years playing this expansive game, and it's great. It really is exciting, and their mindset and mentality is terrific. I have to say, the England energy out in the field is always together. They're always on the front foot. They're always believing, but ultimately it just comes down to that little bit of smartness with the bat in hand, and that's what's costing this England side winning big series. They didn't win in New Zealand because they decided to not enforce the follow-on in that second test match. And in the Ashes series last year, they didn't win the Ashes series because the way that they batted in the first 2 test matches. And now in this series, it's really the bat in hand. I don't think I have any complaints about the bowling. There's such an inexperienced bowling attack, particularly the spinners. They've done remarkably. To think that Tom Hartley's got 20 wickets is incredible. It's just the bat in hand. And yesterday, Johnny Bairstow's dismissal just after tea, first ball, you're looking at that. You're looking at Zach Crawley once again getting to 50, playing beautifully, but not going on to the 3 figures. That's where England are just going a little bit short. I can't doubt the effort and the skills that they're showing with the ball in hand, catching, and with the bat in hand is where they've lost this series.
Let's hear what Ben Stokes has to say, shall we? He's been giving his thoughts to Stefan Schemmelt.
Ben, thanks for talking to the TMS podcast. Can you sum up the emotions of the past 4 days, and particularly maybe the last 48 hours, the way that game has gone up and down?
It has been. It's been a test match of ebbs and flows of every single day, to be honest. You know, I don't think any team really were able to really take the initiative more than twice in periods. So yeah, I mean, another great test match to be a part of, because you just didn't know what was going to happen. You know, you've seen partnerships being able to get built, but then, you know, a wicket would come and another one and another one. So yeah, it was just a real sort of ebb and flow test match. And, you know, even coming into day 4 here, you know, it happened again. India walk off winning by 5 wickets, which looks, you know, quite comprehensively an easy win, but by no means was that easy for India. And, you know, I think that last partnership together there that India put on was very, very impressive, given the pressure that they were under. What
would you have given for another 50 runs today?
Who knows? They might have knocked that off as well.
The way you were celebrating some of those wickets today, I don't think I've seen you as animated as that on the field. It looked like you in particular really believed that you could have pulled that off today. Yeah, well, I always believe, and that's a message that I always give into the dressing room, is you've got to always believe. And when the captain is, you know, giving off those messages and also showing that in their body language and their attitude towards, you know, not only when we're taking wickets, but also in between, you know, those periods when it might be a little bit sort of, they're building the partnership and stuff like that. You know, you always got to believe. I believed even with 25 runs left that we're still going to win that game, because we're only ever a bang away. You know, Bash taking 2 wickets and 2 balls, it was always something that you felt like could happen, and, you know, the game's never over until it's over. You say to us so often that so much goes into winning a test match, lots of things over 3, 4, 5 days. Was there small moments in this game that decided the outcome? A couple of wickets lost in clusters, a dropped catch yesterday morning. Yeah, well, again, you just hit the nail on the head there. You've just mentioned so much that affects a test match. And yeah, I think the 2 points that I sort of look back on this test is that morning where Jarrell managed to bat with Kuldeep for a while. You know, it was interesting the difference of sort of how the wicket changed throughout the day. We found it quite hard to penetrate, you know, in that period to get those last few wickets. And then as the day got on, it sort of getting a bit more difficult with the bat. So, you know, yesterday, Kuldeep, Ashwin and Jadeja were nigh on impossible to not only score off but also rotate the strike. And when you give those Indian bowlers the conditions to bowl in, it's going to be tough for any team to go out and, you know, sort of keep the scoreboard ticking, but also looking to build. So, you know, cricket's a game of skill up against the opposition's skill. And, you know, in particular on that afternoon session, I think India's skill was better than ours. What about the performance of your own spinners? Amazing. Shoaib Bashir in his second test match, his 8th first class game, taking 8 wickets, taking 5 for in the first game. Amazing. Tom Hartley into his 4th test match, you know, I think he's right at the top of the top wicket takers, and, you know, they came into the series before bowling the ball with expectations of who knows how they're going to go. But I think
leaving this game, they can both hold their heads incredibly high. I think, you know, this whole Test series, I think on both sides has unearthed some real talent for the future. You know, you look at some of the young batters that we've seen from India's point of view, some of the spinners that we've sort of thrown out there and given opportunities to. You know, I'm a massive cricket fan. I love Test cricket. So, you know, when you look at some of the performances that individuals have put in from both sides, the future looks really good.
How can they be nurtured going forward, Shoaib and Tom in particular? Shoaib's obviously second behind Jack at Somerset. Lancashire have just signed Nathan Lyon. For the good of English cricket, how can we nurture those spinners?
Yeah, I think that's a real difficult one, isn't it? You know, the only way that you can get better is by playing. And, you know, county teams, you know, they've obviously got the way in which they want to operate to win games. And it is very tough to tell counties that these guys need to play because they're playing for England out here. So, you know, they should be playing in England. But I understand that there's also, you know, the county's point of view they need to take in, that they need to pick their best 11 to give them opportunities to win. But, you know, in an ideal situation, in an ideal world, you want these guys playing more and more cricket. You know, because if they're playing Test cricket, you'd think that they would be playing. But I also understand that, you know, counties have got, you know, teams to pick and balances to work with as well.
Right at the start of the series, Ben, you said that winning just one Test match in India can be seen as a real achievement, and you've done that, but you're 3-1 down and you've lost the series. Do you look at it as the perspective of we've achieved something by winning that one Test, or were the chances for the scoreline to be better than 3-1?
Oh, look, I think, you know, looking at the scoreline 3-1, you know, it doesn't just look great if you look at it like that, but I think the way in which we've come at India is what I'm most proud of. This young, inexperienced team, you know, who obviously been very successful over the last 2 years, but coming to India, it's a completely different beast, you know, something that us as a team has not been exposed to. And I think the way in which we've reacted to everything, you know, throughout a Test match, even being on the wrong side of 3 results now, is something that I'm very proud of. You know, we didn't have a chance in hell of even competing with India, but, you know, even today, it's not an easy win for India. Now, I think they'll admit that as well, but that last partnership was sort of the nail in the coffin there. And but yeah, I'm very proud of the way in which every player's gone out on the field and thrown absolutely everything at India, and no one's ever taken a backward step.
Were you close at any point to taking the ball?
No.
Word for Joe, his innings, and he spoke really honestly with us actually a couple of days ago about the debate around how he's been playing that's been going on in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, Joe, awesome knock. I mean, look, the guy delivers more than not, and, you know, some pretty unwarranted criticism of a man who's, you know, averaging 50, nearly 12,000 runs, as I said in press a few days before the game. But look, we don't tell anyone how to go out and play. We just give everyone the platform to go out and express themselves, and you're the guys out there in the middle making the decisions about what you think the best way to operate in that given time is. And they can go out and play one way or another way, but they know that they don't have any sort of unbacking from the dressing room, because it's such an easy game sat up there watching, isn't it? So no, I should be doing this, should be doing that, but you can do that. So giving the full backing to the guys out there who have to make decisions in the heat of the moment is what we're about. No one tells anyone how to play, and I ain't going to tell Joe Root how to play, because yeah, he's awesome.
Pleased to have a break, or would you want to go again?
No, I want to go again, actually. Yeah, it's one of those where you obviously want the breaks because, you know, 5-match Test series are hard, they are long, not physically but also mentally. But yeah, I'm sure when I wake up tomorrow I'll be thankful that there is a decent break.
3-2 would be so much different to 4-1, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously. You know, we've come into every game here wanting to win those, and we won't be doing anything different in the next game. So yeah.
Cheers, Ben. Thank you.
All good, mate. Thanks.
Yeah, so Stokes obviously very proud of his team there. I'm interested by one of the quotes that he's given. It's about your input to the team, and don't worry too much about the output. He says, everyone's thrown everything into every Test match here, and nothing's been left out on the field. And that's all I'd ever ask from them. I mean, it's quite an interesting thing to worry about the input, not so much about the output. Mark, what do you think he means by that?
Well, I think, you know, sports psychologists often talk about the process, worry about the process, and the outcome will look after itself. So, for example, as a bowler, if you can bowl line and length, put lots of balls in an area around the top of off stump, then that's your end of the bargain. You're trying to create pressure, and you know, maybe a ball will move off the seam, or maybe a batsman will make a mistake. So I think that's what he means, you know, that the lads have put in fantastic effort. You know, they bought into the training, the tough training that they did prior to the tour, and they bought into the mindset that Ben and Brendan McCullum want them to be in, which is to try and be on the front foot, you know, bowl your best ball, or, you know, go out and, you know, if there's a chance to score, take it. So they've bought into that. My question is, and it has always been about this group, is that seemingly from the outside, you hear some of the statements from the team are very much, it feels a one size fits all. Yes. And I've said publicly, I feel like the best teams that I've seen, and this, or individuals across different sports, it might be Tiger Woods or Man United Football Club or whatever, the consistent winners generally reflect on their performances and learn from those performances, and that's how they become, I think, ruthless winners. And I think that's the next step for England. I think, Michael mentioned about smart batting, and we can think of instances over the last 2 years where they haven't necessarily been smart. They've tried to be aggressive, but they haven't necessarily been smart. I think Joe Root's innings in the first innings was a very smart innings. It was a class innings in difficult conditions against a high-class attack. So they have a world-class player there to learn off. Of course, everyone's got to play to their strengths. Zach Crawley has made some really good contributions in the series, but as Michael said, it takes the three-figure scores to really swing the match in favour of your side, and that's the next step for Zach Crawley.
Yeah. Do you think, Michael, that the way that Root played, which was the conventional Joe Root way, wasn't it, actually, for his 100?
He's a brilliant player against spin because he doesn't give the spinner that chance to, he's made a few errors in this series, and it's very rare that you see Joe Root in subcontinent conditions make too many errors against spin, but he has done. Obviously, Bumrah's had the wool over his eyes a little bit. He wasn't there this week, so that would have helped his mindset. But, England, I've just got to learn. I mean, Joe Root changed. Whether they publicly admit that they've had a chat with Joe Root, but I guarantee something's happened over the last week because he played differently, which was great to see. Now, I look at that partnership between Jarrell and Gill, and I would say, if England were chasing 72, 5 wickets down, what approach do you think they would go for? I think they'd have gone for the aggressive approach, which would have brought India into the game if they were in the other, the shoe was on the other foot. Now, what England wanted from Jarrell and Gill was to see them play aggressively because it might have created a mistake or two. But what that partnership and what that pair did was, now we're going to play sensibly, just knock it around, just work the ball into the gaps. If the ball's there to hit, we'll hit it. But not take too many risks. And I just think on pitches like this, and yesterday afternoon, it was crying out just for a sensible partnership. My concern will be that this team will look at their scoring rate this week, and it's the worst that it's been in the Bazball era. And they'll point the finger at the fact that they didn't go aggressive enough. That'll be their kind of motive, that they didn't go hard enough, and they should have gone harder at the Indian spinners and the Indian bowlers. I completely disagree. In Indian conditions, we've seen it over many the history of the game that you just take the game deep. And if you look at India this week, they've got 5 world-class performers not in that side. They've got Jasprit Bumrah, Shami, 2 world-class seamers not playing. They've got Rishabh Pant missing. They've got Virat Kohli missing, KL Rahul. Yes. They've lost the toss, yet they've still won by 5 wickets. It's a remarkable victory for an Indian side when, they're 180 behind with 3 wickets remaining. And they've managed to get to 46 deficit, and they've managed to go out there with a great mentality yesterday afternoon. And Rohit Sharma's captaincy was terrific. And, of course, he's got some wonderful spinners. But we have to give India a huge amount of credit because they do it often. They do it so often against opposing sides that go to their own backyard when you think you've got a sniff, you think you're ahead of them. And inside 3 or 4 hours, they just blow you away and they grab the game back. And before you know it, you've lost. So India are a hard team to play against, but I hope, Aggers, that England aren't just praising everything that they're doing, and it's a close game, and we're competing in India, because I believe they've had chances in this series, and against this Indian side, I don't think you'll ever get a better chance of beating India in India, and particularly with the way that England played. They could have just gone up and down in the gears just slightly last week, the previous week. They could easily have been in a different position in this series.
Let's talk about England's spinners. And you're right, Michael, obviously to pay tribute to India. Having lost the toss in this game as well and sort of won it on that pitch is quite something. Let's talk about Bashir and Hartley, 2 real youngsters, incredibly inexperienced in terms of first-class cricket. I mean, Hartley's taken 20 wickets in this series so far. Now, you've got to say, in very favourable conditions. And I think probably you have to be accurate on both counts about that. However, favourable conditions do mean that sometimes batsmen are more aggressive against you. You bowl a bad ball, they're going to whack it for 4 if they possibly can. Which for you, I mean, I'll put my hand up, so I think Bashir looks he just looks a really, really good off-spin bowler to me. Very tall, right over the top. He's accurate. He's got stamina. He kept spinning that ball all day. Hartley, you tend to get a poor ball per over from him, but to pick up all those wickets. Where are you, Mark? What do you think of these young spinners, and which ones particularly, if any, particularly stands out for you?
Well, I think in different ways they're both progressing. If you take Hartley, for example, he obviously got the 7th in the first Test match, and I read an interview that he did where he sort of said, "Well, look, if I'm playing on favourable pitches, I'm just going to bowl it in there quite quick on a length, and the pitch will do the rest." And to a degree, that's right, but clearly there's a little bit more nuance to spin bowling than that, where even if it's on favourable pitches or not. And I think that's the learning curve for both Bashir and Hartley. They're playing on spinning pitches, but there's so much to be gained from their end, if you like, technically with their actions, with their where they bowl it off on the crease, whether it's close to the stumps, or we saw Hartley go wide of the crease quite a lot in this game, or if it's at the other end in how that different players will approach their bowling. So some will stay perhaps back and look to play them off the back foot, others will come down the wicket, so they're gaining experience all the time through playing high class opposition under the magnitude, the status of Test match cricket. So, this is where I hope somewhere along the line they're going to have some dinner with Ashwin and Jadeja and Kuldeep, hopefully, and have a real chat at the end of the series about the art of spin bowling, because the longevity of the Indian spinners is something that's very rare in the modern game, as we've seen the proliferation of short format. That what these guys have achieved in Test cricket has been outstanding. And so for Hartley and Bashir, yes, they're experiencing Indian conditions, but they're sort of putting all this knowledge and experience in a bank, if you like, and hopefully when they then go on tour Australia, and then they play it back at home in England, they're perfecting their skill and their art. And that's exciting, I think, from an England point of view, because if there's one area that in English cricket we are struggling, it's the development of spinners. And it's not just the last 5 years, it's probably the last 15 to 20 years. We really struggle to develop young spinners.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Michael? I mean, can you see these, one of them presumably, playing in the summer? Jack Leach, of course, has gone off for an operation on this troublesome knee of his.
Yeah, I mean, they've done so much better than we all expected. You go to India to bowl against world-class players of spinning, and you don't expect, two young spinners to have so much success. I guess the challenge now is that they've been seen. I think in international cricket now, there's so much, analytical work on everyone that you play against. Now, Shoaib Bashir's arrived, he's bowled beautifully. Now he knows that India have seen quite a bit of him this week, so it was a pitch that suited his style of bowling, coming from that high height, with a little bit of low bounce and the odd ball spinning, the odd ball going straight on. So it was quite a nice pitch for Shoaib to bowl on. But it was his accuracy and his consistency that would really impress me. And if he can continue with that, he'll have to add a few more skills, because, as I said, batters will find a way of playing against you if you don't keep improving and keep adding a little bit more to your armoury. I guess the challenge is bowling in England. I mean, bowling in England is probably the hardest place to bowl spin. Yeah. You go to India on those kind of wickets, and they're spinning pretty much from ball one, and there's a bit of inconsistency. As Tom Hartley said in his interview, all you need to do is land it. You don't really need to work your wrist. You don't really need to work your fingers too much. You're not changing your angles on the crease that often, because you've just got to be consistent around where you land it, and the pitch will do the rest. So I guess the challenge for both of them will be, now they've been seen, can they continue to get better? I like their attitudes. All the players' attitudes, I have to say, in this Ben and Baz era just look fantastic. Whatever they're talking about in the dressing room and whatever the messaging from the leaders in that team are, the players on the pitch just look completely focused and completely committed to the cause, which is great to see. So that'll stand them in good stead. I guess for Shoaib Bashir, will he play for Somerset? I mean, yeah. With Jack Leach there as well. I mean, I'll say this: I still think Jack Leach is England's number one spinner, even though he's gone through difficulty. I still see Jack Leach, with his action and his development over the last few years. I think if he's fit and firing, I still think Jack Leach is England's number one spinner. I think England will still go to Jack in the summer, but what they have is options, and that's exactly what you want in a squad is players outside of the 11 that you pick that you know that you can bring in and they're going to do a job for you. But for a 20-year-old in particular, in Shoaib Bashir, who's hardly played any cricket, I saw him a bit down at Somerset playing for the Seconds last year. He looks a great character, looks like a player and a young sports person that just loves playing cricket. So that's going to really stand him in good stead. But great to see him do well. But I don't want to be pessimistic and negative, but people will have seen him now, so he's going to continuously have to improve.
We're going back to Ranchi now, where Stefan Shenbelt's been catching up with Dinesh Karthik.
Dinesh, India have won this series 3-1. How will that be seen? Because, the reason I ask that question is India have got such a formidable home record. It's a series they would have expected to win, but they've been challenged in lots of different ways, and they've needed young players to step up.
Absolutely. I think that's been the highlight of the series for Team India. The fact that they've had a lot of young players and they've all come good at different points of time. You just look at the scoreline and think 3-1, oh, it's been easy for India now. I think England have pushed them mentally, psychologically. I know I've been speaking to a few of the team members and they have been pushed a lot more than they were from other previous teams that have toured India. So that says a lot about this England team. I'm looking at this England team, the way Stokes has led, the belief that he's instilled. Somewhere I feel the scoreline shouldn't be judging the team so much. Yes, at the end of the day, it's results. I get it, but they have put up a superb fight a lot of the times.
When was the last time you can remember it was this difficult for India at home?
The Australian series. Again, that finished as 3-1 being the scoreline, but Australia won the first test, and the second test they were chasing a low total in Bangalore, and they goofed it up at the end there, and then after that India were unstoppable. So yes, there was Australia many years ago. That was the only team that pushed India so far, but not many other team.
What about after the players that India have been missing? Because Virat Kohli obviously takes the headlines on that point of view, but no Shami, KL Rahul's only played one test match, and all these guys that have had to step up in their absence.
And Rishabh Pant, and these are big misses, and it never comes easy without these guys who have been around for some time and know how Test cricket is, how hard it can be. So yes, it is. You have to say that it's been a Test series which definitely is been well fought. I think England have done brilliantly well. So it happens that India have won this Test match, but I have to say that without the key players being there, it's been a tremendous effort by India. I think Rohit Sharma has had to dig deep as a captain. There must have been plenty of nights when he was worried about what the outcome could be the next day.
What about Rohit then? What would he have been through? And sometimes I think some people have said actually that he's almost been like a father figure to some of these young batters, in particular Jaiswal. He was guiding him through here last night. Shubman Gill as well. It's a different situation, I guess, for Rohit when, I guess, Virat Kohli isn't around. It becomes more of his team.
True. With Virat Kohli around, there's a different sort of intensity and that he brings to the table. With Rohit Sharma, he is very different. But the fact that Virat Kohli has not been around in this Test series has been a big miss for Rohit Sharma. He, is obviously wanting Virat Kohli to be around, but understands the situation. And he would have realized at the start of the series that would be the biggest challenge, trying to shepherd these young boys and knowing that the way England play, it would be a series which is going to be hard fought. Nothing's going to come easy. So yes, I do think that Virat Kohli is a big miss, and Rohit Sharma has tried his best. He's faltered at times. He's done really well at times, but that's how this game goes. He'd be very proud of the effort the young boys have put in. You've got to understand this was one of the most inexperienced batting lineups, and the bowling has been really good, but he's had to make some big calls.
We talk about young players. We're mainly referring to batters, aren't we? Because when, in terms of the bowling, it's the old firm. It's been Ashwin, it's been Jadeja, Bumrah, even though he's been rested for the fourth test, and a rejuvenated Kuldeep Yadav.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a very strong bowling lineup with Jasprit Bumrah being there, and it's one of those things that he's able to pick wickets because he's got a very experienced bowling attack. But having said that, it's been a great effort by the likes of Kuldeep Yadav, who's really stepped up. Jasprit Bumrah has been outstanding this series with the ball. Ashwin has come good in this test. So at different points of time, as I said, a lot of the experienced bowlers have stood up. It's the batting which was a worrying fact, considering there was so much inexperience. And that also brings into context how good Stokes has been, having such an inexperienced bowling attack, but still instilling the belief in the boys that it can be done.
Could win the series 4-1, Dinesh. We go on to Dharamshala next.
True, it definitely can be, and it's an opportunity for India. But looking at how the weather is right now, it's a really cold place to be going to at this time of the year, and there could be a major part of the Test match played in 4 and 3 degrees. So it's going to be hard work. England will feel a lot more comfortable playing in that weather, I guess.
And you're leaving us now. You're going to go and do your day job.
Yeah, must admit that. A part of me being a broadcaster, the major part of me as a person is me being a cricketer. So I'm going back to that and playing a local tournament before I head off to the IPL.
And the IPL? How excited are you about that? How excited are you to pull on the RCB shirt once more?
Very excited. It's always a gala time of the year for people watching, and for players like me, it's an opportunity to go out there and show the skills and put a smile on a lot of people's faces. Comes with a lot of pressure, but also a lot of fun.
Another winner's medal for you?
How good would that be? If that happens, I'll be back on the podcast and be speaking to you a lot more about how that went.
I will hold you to that, Dinesh. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you over the past few weeks, and good luck in the IPL.
Thanks a lot, Stefan. It's been an absolute pleasure talking. Thank you.
So Dinesh Karthik talking there to Stefan Schemmel. Just a few bits and pieces before we go from here, and look forward to the final Test match in Dharamshala. The series is over, but of course these days there are World Championship points and so on up for grabs, and so both teams will want to get those in the bag if they can. I wonder what can we expect up there, Mark, do you think?
Well, I think slightly cooler conditions climatically. I just trying to think ahead about England and where their head's at. Of course, there are Test match points available. Will they look at Jimmy Anderson not playing this one? With the series having gone and having not really bowled a huge amount in this game. I mean, it depends what sort of surface they're confronted with, obviously. But I just wonder whether someone like Atkinson might come into the frame. Because he bowls sharp, he bowls quick. He might be worth throwing him in. But in terms of the batting lineup, I can't see top 7. I can't really see that changing at all.
Well, very interesting, Michael. See what it is like in Dharamshala, because it is much cooler. It's not the sort of the hot baking type atmosphere that you get down in the sort of the main part of India. If you like, and I must say, when I was there in the World Cup, the outfield was appalling. So I hope they've sorted that out. But I wonder if they are going to go for another turner like this one was with cracks from the start.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I think there's 5 degrees and a bit of sleet due in Dharamshala in a week or so's time. Yeah, so right. They might need the woolly hats. If Johnny Bairstow wasn't on 99 Test matches, he doesn't play. I think Johnny Bairstow will play next week because of that reason. I think look at someone like Dan Lawrence is in that squad.
Well, it gives them a clean sheet for the start of the summer, doesn't it? If they've got this match out of the way, then there is a clean sheet that they can look at without any sentiment.
Yeah, and that's why I play Johnny Bairstow, because I think he's earned the right to get 100 games.
Yes.
I don't want Johnny Bairstow being dropped on 99 tests and, will he get that opportunity to play? He's earned the right to play 100 games. They've lost this series, and this is the time that you do have a little bit of sentiment in selection. Just let him get his 100th. If he gets 100 runs and he played beautifully, of course, he's back in favour for the summer. But when you think Harry Brook's going to come back into this side, Johnny's position in the side will be questioned again, going into the English Test match summer. Ben Foakes, you're looking at Ben Foakes' position, absolutely magnificent behind the stumps. But I just get just a feeling with this England group that I'm not sure Ben Foakes is a shoo-in for the English summer. I honestly don't think, and I look at Ben and Baz and the way that they operate. I just wonder whether they'd make the keeping check. I wouldn't. I think Ben Foakes has earned the right, but I'm just looking down the line of what will happen with this England team and the way that they go about their business. I think, like Ram said, I think they'll stay very consistent. It'll be the same top 7. But if Johnny was on 84 caps, I would suggest that he would have been struggling next week.
Yeah.